Right before us is the beautiful Sea of Galilee, the Kinneret. It's a beautiful, tranquil, pastoral setting where people come to vacation, swim, fish, or boat ride. Looking at this special area, one would never imagine it is a place where there was such a destructive battle that the color of the lake turned blood red. But that's what happened 2,000 years ago during the Great Revolt against the Romans. The people of Migdal never had a chance. This part of the lake had been off of a small fishing town known as Migdal. Migdal means tower in Hebrew, as the assumption was that there was a tower here. The name in Aramaic was Magdala. The Romans referred to it as tarchie, meaning salted fish, referring to the fishing industry that was here. Migdal was a major city on the western side of the lake between the 1st century BCE and the 1st century CE. After Tiberia was built in the year 20 CE, about 6 miles south of here, the town lost a little bit of its importance. However, it remained a relatively wealthy town, deducted by the ruins left behind. By the year 66, it had enough of the burdens and hardships which were inflicted on them by the Roman Empire, leading to what became known as the Great Revolt. It was to last for 6 years, resulting in massive destruction, annihilation, and finally the destruction of the Second Temple by Echeni. The Jews had appointed Yosef ben Matidyahu as the general for the north. He later became known more famously as Josephus Flavius, who became a historian. Through him and the archaeological remains, we are able to piece together the story of the horrors that occurred here. Josephus had gone around the northern cities of the Galil, reinforcing them before the Romans arrived. Remains of some of the reinforcements are still seen today. He had made his home in Migdal. When Vespasian, the Roman general, and his son Titus arrived in Judea to squash the rebellion, their course of action was to first quell the rebellion in the Galil before moving south to Jerusalem. After a valiant fight, Yodfat, located in the central Galil, was the first to fall. Some of the cities decided to surrender to the Romans, realizing that fighting was a lost cause. But the people of Migdal was confident of their position. They had reinforced the walls, and the Sea of Galilee was behind them. They assumed this afforded them the protection they needed. How they were wrong. After the fall of some towns in the north, thousands of people swarmed into Migdal, refugees and rebels, determined to defeat the Romans. But when on September in the year 67 CE, Titus came and devised a simple plan. He realized that he wouldn't need to demolish the walls. Taking 600 heavily armed cavalrymen, they rode around the city into the unprotected lake. From there they entered the exposed side of the city. Upon seeing that the Romans entered their city, panic ensued amongst the town's inhabitants and defenders. The Roman archers and swordsmen easily knocked down the Jewish fighters, who were simply no match. Being a fishing town, numerous small fishing vessels seemed to offer an escape from the onslaught. But this was even worse. The Romans had assembled rafts. Thousands of Jews attempted to flee to the sea, only to be knocked off by the Roman archers. If they attempted to swim or sail away, they were cut down. If they attempted to approach the Roman rafts to battle, they were hacked to death. If by some miracle they successfully made it to the other side of the lake, they were met with the waiting Romans who picked them off upon reaching the shore. Not having any means of escape between those killed within the city and those of the lake, 6,500 Jews perished. According to Josephus, a frightful sight met the eyes. The entire lake was stained with blood and crammed with corpses. He stated that 6,000 of the survivors were sent for harsh labor, and 30,000 were to be sold as slaves. This was a gruesome end of the defenders of Migdal. Because the ending of the town happened without destruction of the town, the remains of the town were intact. This part of Migdal was never rebuilt. Over time it weathered and became filled with debris. The story was long forgotten, until 2009. Israel has a law that before a place can be built, a survey must be conducted to determine if there are any important antiquities. Imagine the excitement for the archaeologists, who from the first moment they not only discovered the ruins of a first-century town, but they discovered what became known as the Rosetta Stone. Archaeologists found that there had been city planning within the town, dividing it into sections: a worship center with a first-century shul, a residential area, a port, and a marketplace. The shul here yield fascinating finds. There are not many shuls from the Second Temple period, only about 6 others. Eventually, a second one was even unearthed here. This shul reflected the wealth of the community. It had had 2 rooms with mosaic floors and benches all around, which was typical of that time period. The walls were brightly decorated with colorful frescoes or paintings on wet plaster. But the most impressive find was the Rosetta Stone. This is a stone with exceptional carvings on 5 sides. It was meant to conjure up images of the Second Temple. The top has a rosetta, hence the name. The front has a menorah on a tripod with an amphora on either side. This is the first time a menorah was discovered in a shul, and the earliest carving of a menorah. The side carvings are identical, with 4 arches with what could be sheaves of wheat inside and an oil lamp at the end. The 4th side is said to be rosettas. The stone is believed to resemble the temple or Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. Its usage is a bit of a mystery. Perhaps it was meant to lay the Torah on while reading. However, it is very low. The importance of the stone was to depict the importance of the temple in Jewish life. This had been a port. The path that led to it is still visible. In the 1980s, when the level of the Kinneret was very low, the unveiling of an ancient fishing boat was made. It is believed that this was a type of boat that could have been used here and that it was from the same time period. As this was a market for the fishing industry, remains of what could have been a fish pond were excavated. The Romans called this a fish-curing town. Remains of some wealthy homes have been unearthed, and in some there were mikvaot. 3 mikvaot were uncovered here. Migdal sometimes had a problem that's almost unheard of in Israel. It had too much water. Migdal is located at the foot of the Arbel Mountains. During the rainy winter season, much of the water ran off these mountains. And being so close to the shore, the underground water level was rather high. Normally, mikvaot and cisterns were plastered to retain the water. But here not only was that not so, but there was a drainage opening in case the water level rose too high. On the northern side of the town, the ordinary people lived. Their houses had thin walls from unhewn stones. Across the street was the wealthy part of town. These houses were built from fine hewn basalt stones, and they probably had a second floor. One mansion was known as a house of dice, because dice were discovered there. After the fall of Migdal, Vespasian went to the eastern side of the lake to counter the residents of Gamla. From there he went south to fight against Yerushalayim. By the time he reached there were almost no rebels from the north to come and aid in the fighting. The people of Migdal were determined to remain a sovereign state, a Jewish state, to live a Jewish life in a free and independent state. They knew they were up against a much more formidable force, but they fought because they believed in the justification of their cause. However, they were no match for the well-trained and equipped Romans, resulting in a slaughter and devastation. Battles such as Masada are well known. It is time for the bravery and courage of the people of Migdal to become part of the legends and folklore of our people.